Hello and welcome to GLC TV and to part 2 of our videos where we're going to be going over this grass deck featuring Executor. And this time it's going to be Cory playing the deck, and Cory sent us some gameplay video of him playing against a Psychic deck piloted by Milton. And so since that last video where we just had the Mega Evolution cards, we have added some new cards from Phantasmal Flames, as well as a couple new additions. So for this version of the deck, we have cut Stadium Nav, Luxurious Cape, Avery, and Arizu, and in their place we're now running Cynthia and Caitlyn as a way to discard the Execute and be able to get back cards like Lusamine and Guzma to be able to get that Force of Vitality going over and over again. We've also added in Dawn to replace Arizu, a little bit more flexible, being able to get a basic Pokemon as well as 2 evolutions. And then the Genesect is going to be replacing the Luxurious Cape. This is a new card from Phantasmal Flames. It has a nice snipe attack, and with the Meganium, it lets you do a lot of damage to the bench. It lets you take key precision knockouts with your grass deck to kind of leverage that fast setup that you can get going with grass. And so that way you can keep your opponent off balance, put them on the back foot, and make it harder for them to get set up in the face of your overwhelming grass onslaught. And we've also added one more basic grass energy. So at this point, I believe we are at 10 basic energy in the deck. And so we're going to be playing, so Cory is going to be playing against Milton, who is playing a Psychic deck. This is his own brew for Psychic, but it is featuring, we've got Gallade and Malamar, as well as Iron Boulder as the main attacker. I believe this deck is more focused on making a bulky Boulder, so we've got cards like Fighting Fury Belt and Bravery Charm, which are meant to boost that Boulder's defense up to 180, 190, making it harder to knock out. But he's got some other surprises that we will see in the gameplay. Unfortunately, I don't have a deck list for Milton's deck, but we'll kind of figure out it as we go along through the gameplay. So here we go. Starting off, I believe Milton won the die roll, so Milton is going to be choosing to go second. Cory going to have to go first. And both players have a starting active, no mulligans, so we're going to get right into it here. Cory going to reveal that Genesect as his active for the game. And going to want to try and set up that Meganium as quickly as possible, but unfortunately just going to have to pass. No setup, no items, Artisan, nothing like that, unfortunately. But it means if he can find the Force of Vitality, at least he'll be able to use that to try and set up quickly. If perhaps he could get a Dawn plus a Force of Vitality, that might work. But we're going to see Milton setting up Ralts here. I'm going to attach an energy to the Malamar pre-evolution, and then going to go for the Iono. Inkay is the pre-evolution, which has an attack for 1 Psychic energy that can put the opponent's defending Pokemon to sleep. And notably that Genesect can threaten 40 damage on turn 2 and 60 on turn 3. So if Milton cannot find the Malamar quickly enough, could be under threat of having that Inkay knocked out by the Genesect. But gonna go ahead and put it to sleep there with the Hypnosis. And rolls a Tails on the die roll for the sleep, so this Genesect will not be able to attack this turn unless Cory can move it out of the active. But draws into a level ball, it looks like. Now I'm going to mention that there was quite a lot of shuffling in this game. I noticed players were shuffling quite a bit, so if you do see kind of a short shuffle that looks insufficient, probably because I cut it. I did cut out a lot of shuffling from the footage for this game. And Cory going to go ahead and grab the Turtwig there off the level ball. And I believe at this point it is discovered that quite a few of his Pokemon are prized, including the entire Meganium line, other than the Chikorita. So Bayleaf and Meganium are missing. I believe also Zarude was found to be missing. And I think the Roserade, or maybe the Roselia, was found to be missing. So 4 Pokemon from 3 different evolution lines. Very unfortunate. It's hard to deal with. I've been considering putting in a redeemable ticket over the Gladion in this grass deck, just because you have so many search cards to search the Pokemon out. I find that it is pretty often that you can get all the Pokemon out of your deck by like the 3rd or 4th turn. And so if you can do that, then the redeemable ticket basically just puts in all your prize Pokemon into your deck without having to worry about any of the other ones going into the prizes. But we are going to see a Battle Compressor here. I'm going to discard the Shaman, the Execute, and the Colress there. Not sure about the Colress, and I think the Shaman, Cory discarded that thinking that there was not going to be need for a Shaman in this matchup, but Psychic is actually one of the games where, unless you know the opponent's deck list, you actually might want to keep your Shaman around, because a lot of Psychic players do play that Galarian Articuno. And I know from playing against Milton at the Portland Regionals several times, he is fond of that Galarian Articuno in his Psychic deck. So it might have been a bit unfortunate to get rid of the Shaman prematurely there off the Battle Compressor. But going to go ahead and Iono here to get a fresh hand. And that Execute now in the discard pile can come back with Proliferation ability, but you do want to keep it in the discard pile in case you can discard it to cards like Ultra Ball or Quick Ball. So not going to put it in the hand. You put it in the hand right before you need it, or when you need it to discard, and then you only bench it when you know you're going to start to attack with it that turn or the next turn. And they're going to roll the die for the sleep, and the Genesect going to stay asleep here going into the next turn, which means that Milton could retreat that Inkay into something else without having to use that Hypnosis again. So we see the Cleffa come down for Milton. That's the Grasping Draw. A bit dangerous with the Genesect on the field, since Genesect only needs 2 energy to KO the Cleffa, even without the Meganium. But gonna go ahead and play Judge here. A card you don't see in a lot of decks, but Psychic does run Judge because of the Iron Boulder. So Judge really helps with hitting those matching hand sizes, along with cards like Marnie, Iono, and N. Sets your opponent's hand to a set size that's easier to match, whereas a lot of times players playing against Boulder will try to do things like have a really large hand or go down to a very low hand size and make it difficult to match hand sizes with the Iron Boulder. And so both players going to 4. Not sure what Cory had in his hand, but after an Iono, I'd imagine probably had something good, like maybe something like a Grotle to evolve. Gonna Evo Soda here. And I think this is is this his first deck search? Might be, because I did have to cut this. So gonna Evo Soda for the Kirlia off the Ralts. I guess he did have the option of getting the Malamar, but the Kirlia makes sense here, so you can start drawing cards. Milton's board's looking very small, needs to start setting up. Gonna use Refinement to draw 2. Looks like he drew into a Monkey Dory. So Milton's list is interesting because as I've been watching the gameplay, I've not seen anything that necessarily synergizes with the Monkey Dory. Normally with Monkey Dory you see stuff like Giratina, you see stuff like the Gengar that comes back and puts 3 damage counters on itself, but I haven't seen any of that. But what I have seen are a lot of tools, more than average, that boost his Pokemon's HP. So I think what Milton's going for here is kind of a tank and heal Psychic deck with the Iron Boulder. Or at least a tank and then throw the damage back at your opponent to do even more damage and possibly take multiple KOs. But gonna finish off the turn there with a Cleffa, Grasping Draw, and otherwise no energy in play. Cory now has to work with that 4-card Judge hand. Up to 5. Ah, there's the Revitalizer. That would have been great to have with the Battle Compressor. And now gets to look at his prizes. And now we can see here the full damage, confirming that those 4 Pokemon are prized, along with Cynthia and Caitlyn, and I believe I saw Guzma prized in there. So had the option of getting the Zarude or the Roselia. Goes for the Roselia. Makes sense to be able to get that Roserade ability to search for any card. That Le Parfum, very powerful. Although I find when I am playtesting this grass deck, I like 80% of the time, I'm using Le Parfum to get a draw supporter, either Lily's Determination or Colress, something that can draw 8 cards and refill my hand. Sometimes Iono if those other two aren't available. But I have used that Le Parfum to basically cut down to just like 3 draw supporters in the deck. Alright, so Cory, unfortunately, still asleep with that Genesect. Otherwise, would have been able to get an easy prize here on that Cleffa or the Inkay. Though he does have the Arven, pulls the Escape Rope up to the front. So yes, you could go Arven, Escape Rope, and then get Float Stone as your tool, retreat back, and take a KO either on the Cleffa or the Inkay. But he's getting the Evo Incense instead. He had the Escape Rope up to the front. No, gonna back off. Thinking here. Okay, so TM Evolution instead. So that's the other play. So we're gonna put the TM Evo on the Chikorita since the Bayleaf is prized. And then Escape Rope. Milton sends up the Munkidori. Sends out the Chikorita. Puts energy. Oh, there's Artisan. Okay, so now he's going to be able to get something. Because you don't want to evolve Roselia with TM Evo, because then you don't get the Le Parfum. So attach the Chikorita. Going to use the TM Evolution to get Grotle and Thwacky out. Okay, I like this. So he could have taken a knockout here. I actually was thinking you should Escape Rope and then use the Genesect with a third energy to take the KO on the Inkay while it's still small. And the reason that is that the Meganium is no longer available. So you're not going to be able to get that Genesect damage up very high until you get that Meganium into play. But I think with Cory's board in the state that it is, I think this is a good... I like this decision. I think getting the Grotle and getting Rillaboom set up is going to be pay off in the long term. Alright, so Milton's got a bit of a long turn here. We've got Artisan to get the Iron Boulder out. Cory has just 1 card in hand. Remember, he did get judged last turn. And Milton has quite a few cards in his hand. It looks like, I want to say 8 cards in his hand right now. So we've got Scoop Up Net. Interesting though, gonna scoop up the Cleffa. Not gonna use it to switch the Monkey. Then gonna discard the Cleffa to the Mysterious Treasure. Gets Malamar into play. Malamar has a Psychic Recharge ability to accelerate energy. I have not seen Xatu so far. So I think it's just Malamar in this deck. I may be wrong though. So would either need to get down to 1 card in hand, or I believe he has a Marnie in his hand, so he could Marnie. So Psychic Recharge. The unfortunate part is he needs to find a way to get that Munkidori out of the active. And because he Scoop Up Net used it on the Cleffa, so probably to try and get it out of danger of the Genesect. He's not going to be able to get that monkey out unless he could find Dimension Valley, but he also needs to use a Marnie. So let's see what happens. He's not going to be able to play his hand down. Fighting Fury Belt onto the Iron Boulder, so now it's up to 180 HP and hitting for 180 damage. Yeah, he can't get his hand down, but he could have Marnie there, but he's going to Arven because he needs a pivot. And unfortunately, I think the Scoop Up Net on the Cleffa is going to keep him from getting a knockout this turn. Because now he's not going to be able to go down to 1 card. He does get Fog Crystal as well to get that Psychic Energy. So now he's got a fully powered up Iron Boulder, but there's no way he's getting down to... He's also got a Darkness Energy in hand. I wonder if he should have just put the Darkness Energy on the Munkidori. Because he is going to attach Psychic to the Iron Boulder. Still has 3 cards in hand. So we're going to go ahead and Refinement. With the Curlia, goes up to 4 cards in hand. Discarded the Marnie. And now we see... Oh, he's at 5 cards in hand. So yeah, a bit unfortunate. Gave up the ability to take a knockout this turn. Because he could have Scoop Up Net the Munkidori, put the Psychic Recharge onto the Boulder, Scoop Up Net the Munkidori, attached and then Marnied and then played one card from his hand, and he would have gotten the knockout with the adjusted horn there. But instead had to use the Arvin to get U-turn board to get Monkey Dory out of the active spot. And then Rescue Stretcher on the Cleffa, so we just kind of undid our scoop up net play on the Cleffa, and that's kind of the best he's got to do is draw 3 with the Cleffa. Although now without the Marnie, it's going to be a lot harder to match hand sizes if Cory keeps his low hand size. So back to Cory. Going to use the Grodel. Going to get the Le Parfum Roserade. And now I think there was a very long time spent deciding what to get with the Le Parfum. Which makes sense because if you go up, if you get a draw supporter, you go up in hand size, and then if you can't clear it out, it makes it easier for Milton to get the knockout on with the Iron Boulder here, but does end up deciding to go for the Lily's Determination. You just need the card. You need the card flow and the card volume. You have so many evolutions you're trying to get out, and they all take up multiple cards to try to get those set up. So cards like Lily's Determination, cards like Chorus, really important for this grass deck to just refill your hand and overcome the heavy card investment, the card advantage requirement to get all these evolutions set up. Now he could have gone for the Rillaboom and then just retreated and Rillaboomed into the Genesect and kept a low hand size. But gonna get a lot of cards here. Evo Incense, gonna get that Rillaboom out just the same. Now I'm gonna be able to use Voltage Beat. Zarude is your other attacker, and then Exeggutor and Torterra are your other two. So right now, without Zarude, without Exeggutor available, Genesect is his only attacker unless he wants to evolve into Torterra, which you don't really want to do super early. Although he does have a Turffield Stadium here, so going to be able to get the Torterra. Not going to be able to get the Bayleaf unless it got shuffled in from the prizes. If he took it, well, he didn't take a prize last turn, so no, it's still in the prizes. So gonna use Turffield Stadium to get Exeggutor. The Execute is in the discard pile, but he doesn't have the Force of Vitality Stadium, so he's gonna have to wait a turn to evolve into that Exeggutor. And then while he's in the deck, gonna grab 2 cards, 2 energy with Voltage Beat, and put them on the Genesect, now able to snipe for 80 damage. And it's unfortunate the Meganium's prize, because what I have found is with this deck is that if you cannot get them, you really want to get the Meganium set up first, even before Rillaboom, because otherwise you end up having to invest a lot of energy into your attackers, which you can do with Rillaboom, but you quickly run out of energy in the deck. Now you have Super Rod and Ordinary Rod to help with that, but without the Meganium in play, if Cory doesn't get that set up quickly, he's going to run out of energy because these attackers take so much energy. But is able to get a knockout on the Kirlia with that Bugs Cannon Genesect, taking the first prize and knocking out a critical Pokemon on Milton's bench. That Kirlia is both a sort of source of card advantage and also an important attacker and search engine when it turns into that Gallade. And so getting that knocked out is going to make it much harder for Milton to have certain lines of play available to him, at least for the next 1 or 2 turns. Now Cory has gone from 1 card in hand up to 7, and so Milton's going to have to find a way to get to 7 cards in hand. Puts the Bravery Charm on the Cleffa, so really trying to not let that Cleffa get knocked out, which tells us that Milton's probably not running Bench Barrier Mew in this deck. Although that only puts it at 80, so it still knocks out to a Genesect. Level Ball. I wonder if it would be better to save the Bravery Charm for when your Iron Boulder gets knocked out. And then when you recover it. So Level Ball gets a Mimikyu. Mimikyu actually very, very bad against grass decks, especially this grass deck, where pretty much every attacker either requires grass energy, or in the case of Torterra, it counts your evolutions, but you know, Milton's not playing a whole bunch. He's only got the Malamar, and then supposedly the Kirlia is his other evolution. Maybe if he has Xatu, it could get up to 150, but that doesn't knock out a Torterra. So, okay, here we go. So we're going to end. So this is going to help him match hand sizes. N is going to put Cory to 5, and Milton to 6. And now Milton just has to play down one card, and only one card, unless it's a Professor's Letter. He sees a bunch of supporters and energy, which he had already attached to the Mimikyu, it looked like. Can he play one card? I see Raihan, Lilies. I mean, he could fail. Is that an Evo? There's an Evo incense. He could fail to find with that. Or yeah, there's a Buddy Buddy Poffin. So yeah, I'm going to retreat into the Iron Boulder. And Buddy Buddy Poffin, going to fail the search. And he already shuffled with the end, so not. Oh, there, he's going to shuffle the deck now. And Adjusted Horn for 170 damage. Takes the knockout on the Genesect. And now Cory has to figure out how to deal with this 180 HP Iron Boulder. Now, he does have the Execute in play. And very heads up, he put an energy on it last turn. And that's going to really help with getting that math fixed. Because again, there's no Meganium available unless he took the Meganium off the prizes and found a rare candy. He's going to have to just do it raw with these energy and this Rillaboom. And is now considering, does he get the Executor or does he get... I guess he's thinking, does he get Executor or does he get Torterra? He has to do some math here. So with the Torterra, he'd be doing 1, 2, 3. You're doing 150 with Torterra unless you can get the Executor as well. Or the Bayleaf. I think he took the Bayleaf off the prizes. So he could get Torterra and just get the KO, but then Torterra is your kind of ace in the hole. You don't want to use it too early. So with the Executor, we're doing 60 plus 30 for each grass. So the math works out. You would need to do 180 to knock out this Iron Boulder. You would need 30, 60 times 2, 120, so 4 plus 60 is 180. So you need 4 grass energy. So, like we said, that grass energy on the Execute, super heads up, means that if he has a grass energy in his hand, which he does, and he's going to have 2 grass energy for the Rillaboom here, and he should still have more grass energy in deck, but I'm going to use the Ordinary Rod to shuffle the Genesect and 2 grass energy back in, and then going to use the Rillaboom, puts that on the Executor. And with an attachment from hand, we'll be doing exactly 180 and able to knock out that Iron Boulder and keep that Grotle in play. And able to use it for the Torterra on a later turn for 200 damage. Yep, attach energy from the hand. Yeah, and this Executor is a nice damage scaling. Much better than the Zarude. Even though it's 30 damage instead of 20 for each grass energy, it adds up quite quickly, and this Executor can take big knockouts, especially when you have a Meganium to boost it. Oh yeah, he's saying he could have just used the Turf Field there as well. He didn't have to agonize that much. So I'm gonna send the Cleffa up, and again, this Mimikyu can only mimic for 60 damage here on the Executor. So gonna have to find a way to get that Iron Boulder back. Did use that Rescue Stretcher to get that Cleffa back. That was Scoop Up netted and discarded though. Okay, so Professor's Letter to get 2 Psychic Energies. Could Grasping Draw and go behind on prizes. Could also go for a Monkey Confusion. If this Monkey Dory's only way to send damage counters back is by tanking attacks, then it might be worth it to just sacrifice it and go for a Confusion flip while you try to set up another attacker or find an Iron Boulder. Oh, there's a Galarian Articuno. Okay, there it is. So that's Shaman missing in action. This Galarian Articuno comes down. And with the D-Valley, going to be able to attack with those 2 energy attached by the ability. And gonna Boss's Orders Rillaboom. So gonna go for the trap. Trying to trap the Rillaboom, or at least force Cory to discard some energy to get it out, since it does have 3 retreat cost. And without Meganium, that's gonna be hard to pay. And now gonna go for the knockout on probably the Grotle, or probably don't want to knock out the Roserade, so this is a strong play when you can try and trap something big in the active while you snipe their bench. Makes it hard for them to take a response KO. So we're going to snipe the Grotle and take surprise. Now tied up 4-4, but Cory had the Floatstone in hand, so he's ready to go. It looks like he took the Bayleaf off of that last prize on the Iron Boulder. So one step closer to getting Meganium into play, but if it comes out too late and there's no more energy to double because they all got spent, that might be a problem. He does still have Super Rod, and the deck does have Lana's Aid to get energy back. And now there's also the option for Cynthia and Caitlyn and Lusamine, although Cynthia and Caitlyn is also in the prizes. So you could Lusamine for Lana's Aid to go with your Forest Forest of Vitality. Has the Versus Seeker in hand. Trying to decide if there's any supporters worth playing. An Arven, an Iono, or a Colress. Could Colress for 7. Because he needs another attacker. Really want that Zarude, but he's already used the Hisuian Heavy Ball. And this is where that redeemable ticket would have been helpful, I feel like. Because you could Versus Seeker for the Arven, get the redeemable ticket, play it on the same turn. You cannot get Gladion with Arven. And then he could have used... well, I guess he doesn't have Grotle anymore, so I don't know. I think he needs to shuffle the Grotle back in. So maybe it would be best to Arven for Super Rod and put the Grotle, the Turtwig, and a Grass Energy back in the deck. Because after this, if this Exeggutor gets knocked out, there's going to be no more attackers for Cory to use. So he needs to find a Zarude off the prizes or get that Turtwig set up again. Okay, just going to take the knockout with the Exeggutor and hope for the best. Cory ahead on prizes. Ooh, there's a Blacephalon. And Cory at 3 prizes, so this is going to be 12 damage counters on his board. Now that's not going to be translate into multiple prizes for Milton, but it is going to allow him to keep up in the prize race and potentially weaken another target if he decides to knock out. Probably the Bayleaf would be the target here. Gonna Copycat. That is a card I don't think we see a lot in a lot of Psychic builds, at least in the more competitive ones. Mostly I think better to just disrupt your opponent's hand, so Judge, Marnie, Iono, N are considered the more common ones. So Copycat, gonna draw, let's see, 4 cards, 5 cards. So Cory's got 5 cards in hand. The other problem with Copycat is that you can't play any cards if, you know, you're never going to have more cards than your opponent after you play a Copycat. So also, you don't really want to Copycat yourself down to 1 if your opponent has a low hand size. Okay, Field Blower going to take out that Floatstone, which is going to be important because it takes Cory off of some flexibility where he could have sent out the Rillaboom and then found an attacker and then retreat the Rillaboom. So now he's going to have to figure out another way to get this done. Although I guess Blacephalon's just going to be knocking out the Bayleaf because it can't actually knock out the Exeggutor. So he still gets to attack with the Exeggutor here. So we're going to take 3 knockouts with this Exeggutor. But knocking out the Bayleaf and then looks like putting 3 damage counters onto the Exeggutor. Nest Ball is going to get back the Genesect that was shuffled into the deck off the Ordinary Rod. He's got the Rare Candy, but no Meganium yet. And now the question is, do you start putting energy on this Genesect, right? Because it's so energy hungry, you really want Meganium out to use it. Now he could get a knockout because there is a Mimikyu. There is actually a Mimikyu and the Cleffa. So he could take 2 knockouts with Genesect. And he could even do it where he traps something with, if he found Guzma, he could trap the Malamar and then just knock out the Mimikyu and the Cleffa. So you want to be very careful when you're benching low HP Pokemon against certain matchups So I'm going to attach a Grass from Hand to Genesect. It's probably running pretty low on energy at this point. Because there's 10 in the deck. There's 2, it looks like 2 or 3 in the discard pile. There's 5 in play. Okay, Versus Seeker for Lily's Determination. And there's 1 in the hand. So at this point, there's probably like 3 or so energy in the deck pre-draw, like with this shuffle. So just be careful, right? Because you could easily run out of energy, which is, again, why Meganium is important. It conserves your energy. So Lily is going to be a Cynthia, draw for 6, since Cory has 3 prizes. We see a Torterra in the hand, an Ultra Ball. Looks like a Revitalizer was drawn, so that is going to be really good. Now the question is, do you get the Meganium or do you get the Turtwig and Grotle? I think you probably need to get the Chikorita and just hope that you get the Meganium off the prizes, but the Grotle makes sense too. It's just the problem is, like, your Torterra gets weaker and weaker as you lose Pokemon. But yeah, that makes sense. And then if he gets a Super Rod, he'll be able to draw off it. Oh, nice! He's going to devolution the Roserade. Did he find the Forest of Vitality? Because he also needs to try and get rid of that Dimension Valley. The great thing with Forest of Vitality and Devolution Spray is the Force of Vitality lets you bypass the rules that you can't evolve the same turn you devolve, because that's a rule, it's not a card effect. So you can then evolve the same turn, but doesn't have it, and gonna just take the knockout with the Executor on the Blacephalon, down to 2 prizes. And Milton's gonna have to find a way to jump a prize. Either take 2 prizes on the same turn or stop Cory from taking a prize this next turn before he takes his last one. Okay, we're going to see a Nest Ball. Really want to see that Iron Boulder come out. That, the Bravery Charm wouldn't stop the Iron Boulder from getting knocked out by the Executor, but it would make Cory put 1 more energy on it at least and test his resources. Gonna fail to find on the Nest Ball. And then gonna play a Raihan, which is a bit awkward with the Malamar, but can at least get a card. Probably should have done that first. Okay, well he's gonna get Night Stretcher with the Raihan, so now can get the Iron Boulder back into play. And Cory has, I believe, 5 cards in hand. No, 4 cards? No, 5 cards. So gonna get the Galarian Articuno. He has a Darkness Energy in hand, though. Okay, plays the Galarian Articuno. No Psychic Energy in hand. Psychic Recharge to the Articuno. Attaches a Darkness Energy. And Counter Catcher. Okay, he's going to try and trap the Rillaboom again. This time with the Floatstone gone, but he doesn't have the right energy, because yeah, the Dimension Valley only reduces the attack cost by colorless, so he needs 2 Psychic Energy. He's got a Psychic and a Dark, and I think Cory pointing that out right now. He's not going to be able to attack with this Articuno. Oh no. Seems there was a mistake here. And then it looked like Milton trying to figure out what he wants to do. Okay. Okay, it looks like Cory's going to let him back up and retreat into the Monkey Dory instead. So Cory being super chill. This is a casual game. Playtest. Also good to test. When you're playtesting, you should always try and let your opponent play optimally and take back any mistakes, so you're getting the best playtesting possible. So nice on Cory, letting him take that back. Gonna retreat into the Monkey Dory and go for the Confusion play on the Rillaboom with the 60 damage. Cory's still kind of stuck. He needs to find a way to get this Rillaboom out of the active, though he still has some options. He's already played Escape Rope and Floatstone, but we do have a Scoop Up Net in the deck, and that Roserade is ready to go. Evolves into the Grotle. Yeah, gonna Roserade. I think you just get the scoop up net. Or Guzma. There you go. You got Guzma. And then you don't have to give up your Rillaboom. And I'm wondering if he should, Counter Catcher's been played, Guzma's been played, or Boss was played. I guess he hasn't played Guzma, so maybe you don't Rillaboom onto Grotle yet, or you do it and then you evolve into Torterra. The reason I'm thinking about that is you really want to get ahead of Hex Maniac and get your board set up so that your opponent can't cripple your energy supply with a Hex Maniac. So I almost feel like he should evolve to Torterra and just Rillaboom now to the Torterra with the last energy in his deck. I don't think he's going to be getting Meganium set up this game due to the prizes and the Articuno snipe. He's got an Ultra Ball, no reason to play that. Quick Ball, though, going to get rid of Buddy Buddy Poffin to get... I don't think there's anything left. Yeah, nothing left in the deck. The Chikorita is in the discard pile, Zarude is in the prizes, and going to take the knockout on the Articuno with the Exeggutor, and now takes a 2-prize lead with that unfortunate misplay with the Galarian Articuno and the Darkness Energy and the way it interacts with Dimension Valley. Made sense, though. I think the play makes sense now that I think about it from Milton's side. That boss play with the Galarian Articuno, trying to trap the Rillaboom in play to try and jump ahead on prizes. The only problem was there was a Roserade in hand, so you needed the hand disruption to go with it, because Cory just could Roserade, and Guzma had not been played yet. So Teammates gonna be played. We could go for a Luxcape play here. We've already played the both stretchers. I don't know if there's another way to get the Boulder into play. I think right now the big problem is I see a rescue carrier, or whatever that card is, probably used to get back the Mimikyu. I think Milton used to being able to just ride Mimikyu out to get multiple prizes, but in this matchup, Mimikyu is absolutely useless. Even against Torterra, you're not going to be getting a knockout on Torterra with a Mimikyu. So yeah, is going to grab VS Seeker and Luxcape. Not going to be able to use the VS Seeker this turn, though, since the Teammates was the supporter for turn. And is there no way to get the Iron Boulder back out? Unfortunate, doesn't seem to have Tulip or Clara available. I wonder what else could have gotten taken with that instead of the VS Seeker, because he's going to lose this turn, so the VS Seeker not particularly helpful. Yeah, can't do the Mimikyu. Gonna have to go with the Munkidori and go for the Confusion play. So put 6 damage counters onto the Exeggutor, and unless Cory can find the Scoop Up Net, he's gonna have to flip for the win here. He could retreat though and just take the knockout with Torterra. So, right, because he's doing 200 damage with the Torterra. Okay, finally finds the Gladion a little bit late. The last card in the prizes is Hisuian Heavy Ball, so that doesn't do much. I feel like you just retreat. Does he see it? Unless he's out of energy. Oh my gosh, is he out of energy? No, there's Torterra. He should have energy still. 1, 2. There you go. He's got it. Retreat. Send out the Torterra. You're hitting for 50, 100, 150, 200 damage with the Torterra. With the Evo Press, you retreat the Exeggutor, and you take the knockout with the Torterra for the final prize and the victory. So, as you can see, the deck does struggle with prizing when you get stuff like Meganium prized, or in the case of the last game, we had the Forest of Vitality prized. But there's lots of alternative avenues of victory. You can take big knockouts with Exeggutor, and then you can try to hopefully outlast your opponent with your resource recovery. I think going forward, I don't know, I really want to add Battle VIP Pass to the deck to help get through these slow startups, just so you have a more consistent, because you can get evolutions out of the deck really easily, but you have to have them in the basics in play. And I feel like Skyla goes really well with that, because you can also get Forest of Vitality with Skyla, as well as using it to get your Battle VIP Pass more consistently in the first turn. But that's going to be it for this gameplay. Thanks everybody for watching. You can check the description for the grass deck list. If I can get Milton's deck list, I will put it in as well. We'll catch you for the next one.